Oh yeah, kia ora tātou. What I'm going to do is be a tad laborious because this is on record, and every year we get a new number of our whānau, rightly so, that whakapapa to our area under Ngāti Porou, coming across the hill, asking questions, and they've got every right to. So what I'm pleased about today is at least we've got a video record which can be replayed. The commentary I'm going to make on our Ngāti Porou journey is recorded in two specific affidavits which we filed in proceedings 2 years ago. So I'm not positing what they call propositions. They are backed up authoritatively in regard to some of the statements that I'll be making. They are incontrovertible Ngāti Porou historical facts. Okay, others may contest our truth, but that's their business. I'm just here to convey the Ngāti Porou truth. So with that, what I'm going to quickly do, because this has been videoed, is step you through a range of slides that provide any new whānau member that is awakening to their whakapapa or awakening to their rights and entitlements to register for our post-settlement governance entity. At least they've now got a background. So I'm just grateful for that. Just before I embark on this journey, I did want to thank Uncle Fred Twaits particularly as our outgoing chair. And the reason for that is that for 20 years, him and Uncle Penny held the line. We also, of course, would be remiss in not acknowledging Uncle Paki, who filed our stopper, for the want of a better way to put it, which was Y866. Y866. So, and then all the other uncles that weighed in behind that, Uncle George McLeod, Uncle George Portai, Uncle Mac Tungwananui, Dick Hauraki, my father, who were the foundation trustees for Ngāti Porou ki Hauraki in 1987. Now, the Hauraki journey starts in the tribunal with the filing of Y100 by Uncle Shu Tukokino. And this was an era where Pari Hauraki Te Whānau Nui was all together. Okay, we honoured one another's positions. When money comes along and territory comes along, then it becomes quite difficult. Anyway, so that's 1986. We all saw what was happening, and then we had to ensure that in the kōrero advancing the Hauraki Māori Trust Board, that we were part of that journey. And so in the ultimate meeting in setting up the Hauraki Māori Trust Board at Paio Hauraki Marae out of Pairo, I was there, Andrew Napo, God bless him. A lot of people have passed away on this journey, and others were there, and we got the right and entitlement to be recognised as not a subsidiary iwi, but an iwi of our own right in the Hauraki whānui, hence the 12 iwi. And that was 1987. 1988 is the Hauraki Māori Trust Board Act, where we are legislated accordingly, and from that status onward. But here's the thing, Ngāti Porou's history did not start in 1986 or 1886. Our illustrious ancestors from Māori Tikitiki Tāranga all the way through to Paikiariki Moana, Paua, and Hau have left cultural footprints across the Te Taro Te Ika, right? And so it would be injudicious of us and unbecoming of us as Ngāti Porou people not to acknowledge our rangatira rongonui tipunas, who well, as you know, as every one of you know, at Kennedy Bay there, Paikiariki Moana, he named it Te Arahau and took to wife, as you all know, Jahu Moiwairaka and then ka puta ki a mātou. So we're blood stock of the founding stock and the preeminent stock of Te Taro Te Ike Tikuro Rāti. So that's the Ngāti Porou story, and we only acknowledge one tribe ahead of us. I won't mention their name, but they're a little group just north of Tararoa. Anyway, moving on, that's our history. So that is well condensed and evidenced through whakapapa and traced to absolute authorities in our Ngāti Porou story. So that's the background. So then we move forward from 1988 and the Māori Trust Boards Act. Uncle Mac Tuananui was our first representative. He was then followed by Uncle Paki Harrison. Uncle Paki Harrison was then followed by myself. I was then followed by Uncle Whai Nata. There was one other person who I just can't recall in between, and then Uncle Penny for the last significant period. All right, and but everywhere we went there, as the elders started to pass away, Ngāti Porou's status continued to be sort of challenged and contested, and we've never got the right resource allocation either out of the Hauraki Collective or alternatively the Hauraki Māori Trust Board. That's just a statement of fact. Okay, so now flipping that forward, under the Y100 claim, we thought we were all heading together as one whānui, but we didn't know that all the money that was being provided to the Hauraki Māori Trust Board to advance our research and settlement credentials and evidence wasn't happening. And that's why Uncle Paki had to file very late in the day 866, Y866, to protect our interests. The rest is history. We had to scramble to produce our evidence into the Waitangi Tribunal over the course of the late 90s, early 2000. That report then was issued in 2005 it wasn't Hauraki. It was the Taratokonui marae over in Paeroa. So that's where that was laid down by the Crown. Then we had to set up a negotiation committee, and that negotiation committee ended up being the Hauraki Collective, not the Hauraki Māori Trust Board, but the Hauraki Collective. Okay. And the reason why a new institution was required was because the Hauraki Māori Trust Board, we should be treated as a 12th partner, whereas in the Hauraki Collective, we're treated as 2.5%. Okay, and I'll come to that shortly. And so Marituhu Confederation moved all negotiations across the Hauraki Collective. That's the rationale for why the Hauraki Māori Trust Board did not champion the post Waitangi Tribunal report into the Hauraki claim. And then the rest is history in regard to the way we have been treated, which you'll see very shortly on the next slides. Our area of interest, which we cannot not settle on, isn't based just at Kennedy Bay and Mataora. Our areas of interest as Māori in terms of our rights to free range, forage and fish and relate are quite significant. And so, for instance, we're in negotiations with Tauranga Moana in regard to Kauri Point, where we had nohoanga and free settlement and trading entitlements and rights. Now, it's a cultural statement of association. It is not a land grab. Are you with me? It's a historical statement of fact that Ngāti Porou peoples engaged ki te hongongoa kia mātou no Ngāti Porou Tauranga Moana. And so it was a free ranging area that was provided. That does not give Ngāti Porou a right to assert mana whenua in Tauranga Moana, but it would be remiss of us not to acknowledge our rich history of engagement with Tauranga Moana. And that is further affirmed by Ngāti Porou participation in the Battle of Whakamarama. So when you're heading just before coming into after Katikati, you'll come to a place called Whakamarama Road, coming up over the hill, heading into Te Puna, and up in that valley, Uncle Fred, myself, and a number of others, I think Bev, you might have been there, the apo has been raised to the acknowledgement of the Battle of Whakamarama, where Ngāti Porou warriors fought there against the Crown. So I needed to go to some extent to explain to you what a cultural redress statement looks like. It's not a land grab, but it says to all our mokopunas what a rich history our people had. Right, so there's that. Now the next slide, and I'm going to start to go at some pace now, and then invite contributions and comment thereafter. But the next slide really starts to go into our demographics. I'll bring them up